Good morning. Welcome to Papa J's shop. I'm Papa J. Today's little project is to install hardware on a bunch of cabinets, a whole bunch. This is a really awesome big home, and we were brought in to put handles on it. So let me turn this just a little so you can see what I see, because I don't have my little separate monitor today. Don't know why. First thing I do when I come in to do a job like this is I set up some sort of a protection for the countertops so that I'm able to work on them. This isn't my house, I suppose, if it's yours, you can do whatever you want. We've got several boxes of hardware here that I actually haven't even opened yet, so let's see what we got. Hopefully they're not something totally outrageous, but mostly normal. And we have a lot of them, so I'll spend a lot of my time today opening these. And luckily you don't have to. Very cool. Pretty much a standard bar pull. I mean, this one's a little bit more fancy, but essentially just a bar pull. In this case, because they're made in wonderful China, 128 millimeters. And I'll show you how to set up our gauge here in a few minutes. But first, I'm going to open up a bunch of this, and then we'll go from there. I will show you, over the years, I've come up with ways to streamline different projects and different things, and that's one of the reasons this channel was invented. Let me show you a little trick on opening this stuff. This can be very tedious. You've got separate packages of screws, you've got the hardware itself and multiple envelopes. What I do is I set up kind of a production line. So I can pull it out of the box, we're going to pop it, and if you pop it off the right end, which I didn't, drop that, throw that, and set the screws off to the side. And if they're packaged right, which these are, this will come right apart. I have a little gadget I'm going to show you in a few minutes that makes opening up the screws much faster and easier, but I don't have it in here just yet. So now I'm going to pause the camera so you don't have to stand there or sit and watch me open hardware. But I just wanted to show you that little trick. So I have this device. I have this gadget that I made for opening these packages. And basically it's this. It's a little block of wood. I cut a slot in it. I don't know if you can see that. There we go. Cut a slot. Took a standard razor knife blade and a little bit of hot glue from my hot glue gun. That is not quite hot enough yet, but we're getting there. Either that or it's plugged. And you just run a little bit of hot glue down on either side of that blade. Now, obviously, for all of the people who read directions and who believe in warning labels, this is a huge warning label. Yeah, you can cut yourself pretty good with this. There's not a great way to make it any safer. So don't cut yourself. And all you do with this, once you get it made, it just makes opening all these bags a ton faster. Because, you know, in all their intelligence, they put a little heat seal right there. It makes it very difficult to get to. And all I do is poke it down, pull it forward a little bit, and that allows me to open that bag right up. And let's try that again so that you can actually see it. I also keep a trash box handy. So all you do, you poke it down on there and you push forward. Oh, my glue was not there or dry enough, but it allows you to make a little hole. Now you can tear that open. Presto. Once we got some hardware open, oh, let's bring you back up where you can see me. Once we have the hardware opened up, it's time to set up a jig. Now, if you're only doing one or two pieces of hardware, great. You can measure, you can use masking tape. There's a lot of methods. If you're going to do it, like in this case, we're going to be doing a total of 140. If I were to measure and mark these with masking tape and mess around and center punch, yes, it can be done, but we would be here 2 days. I don't have 2 days. In this case, This is called, what is this? This one's a Manila. It's an Amazon jig. It's not expensive. And I will see if I can find the link, and I will put it down in the description. This is my third one of these. They don't last forever because I do thousands of hardware every year. But these last better than almost any of the other inexpensive ones. I think this was like 30 bucks. If you can buy something for $30 that saves you hours and hours and hours and hours of work, I highly recommend it. Now, setting it up, we have metric hardware, so I'm using the metric side. It's just a T-post, and then we have our drilling positions. Now, you'll notice this little piece of orange tape. There's a center hole on this jig right there. It's lined up with the others, and it can be used as a center for putting a knob on a drawer. I leave it covered whenever I'm not putting a knob on a drawer so that I don't accidentally screw up and pop the drill in there just because I'm thinking about something else. Not that I ever get distracted, but it could happen. So we've got these two sliding pieces that are the drill guides. Now we have 128 millimeters. Use your math. Don't be afraid. It's very simple in this case. You have 128. Half of 100 is 50. Half of 28 is 14. So if you add those two together, 64 millimeters. What that number is, from 0, I go out 64 millimeters, which is very clearly marked on these jigs. Come down the other side, 64 millimeters. Come on, Keith, you can do it. 64 millimeters. And what we end up with is that we are now perfectly lined up with the holes on here, assuming they're centered. These are a fairly good quality. I mean, this thing weighs 8-10 ounces. These are a fairly good quality pull. You can go to some of your big box stores. You can buy really cheap pulls, knobs. If you pick it up and it feels like it's a Christmas tree decoration, all hollow and cheap, it's probably hollow and cheap. There's also a really good chance that some of these holes may not be centered at 128 millimeter. These are big box, possibly not. And while I've gotten some really nice hardware at the big box stores, I've gotten some total garbage. So, use your head. Buy something decent. You don't have to buy the most expensive toy in the store, but you have to buy a toy that works. Now, in our case, the Woodmark company wants our hardware mounted 3 inches off the edge. In this case, our edge is going to be delineated here. So we're going to set that up to be 3 inches below the bottom hole, which is right there. Tighten that screw up. And now we've got our spacing for our up, down, and our distance from the edge. From the side, in this case, these are a 3-inch style, and I'll show you that in a minute. So half of that is going to be 1.5 inches. So we're going to double. For whatever reason, it cut off. So we're going to end up with 1.5 inches from the edge, and then 128 millimeter spread from the bottom. And I'm hoping the sound is a little better now. I don't know why I had it on upside down, but even though this mic is pretty cool, it's not perfect. So let's move over to the cabinets. We're going to double check our measurements. So we've got everything all set up. I double checked my measurements to make sure that the jig was set up correctly. Tightened all the screws, and that's something you got to keep doing throughout pretty much on any of these jigs. You don't want to crank them down with pliers or anything because it'll end up ruining the jig. But just every now and then I run my hand up through, you'll see me just checking to make sure they're all tight. So we hold this up, just look with an eyeball look to make sure it appears to be correct. And we go ahead and we mark it. And you notice I didn't drill all the way through, I just made marks. Now, ultra sharp drill bit, open every door. Never drill a door that's closed, because that's a great way to drill into the cabinet without realizing there's one back there. We don't get stupid. We just drill at a regular rate. Let the drill cut. Don't force the drill in. Now, we'll grab a piece of hardware and some screws. Now, the reason we're doing this already instead of drilling a bunch, which is what we will do, is we want to check and make sure it works. And that we have everything on. Even though all the measurements say I got it perfect, it might still have some little quirk. So, we're just going to start a thread, and then we're going to go down here and start a thread, and we'll go back up and tighten that one. And there's one straight, true, and nice looking piece of hardware. So I'm going to go down through here. I'm going to drill a whole bunch of these, and we can start putting them on, and I will be back. So you can't tell by watching the video, but I could feel fairly quickly that even though I've got a pretty good bit, I don't have a great bit. So we're going to start out, we're going to use a fresh bit, change it out before I do the actual drilling, just to get a nice clean hole. If you have a dull bit and you start trying to drill through, you're going to, without even realizing, you're going to start pushing harder. As soon as you do that, you're going to start leaving blowouts in the back of the cabinets, which we don't want. Or the back of the doors, I'm sorry. So we've got a bunch of holes drilled, not all of them. I alternate back and forth. I'll open a bunch, then I'll drill a bunch, then I'll put some handles on, and then I'll go back and I'll open some more, and then I'll drill some more. And I change it up, and that just takes some of the stress off your back, your arms, your shoulders, whatever. It keeps you changing position so you're not doing that same thing repetitively and ending up, next thing you know, you're all fatigued and you start to hurry, and that's when mistakes happen. So you take your time and break it up. Now you'll notice I'm not doing these upper ones yet, and the only reason is because I didn't bring them in my ladder yet. I'll be going out getting the ladder here in a few, and then we'll drill those. But I won't bore you with the repetitiveness of that. The other thing I'll point out is that I'm putting screws in all the cabinets and just keep moving. And the reason I do that is they're small and they're easy to fall off. And rather than going and getting the screws and then a handle and then the drill and the screws and handle and the drill, I make a little process of it. I'll walk down through and put all these screws in. And normally when I'm not trying not to block the camera, I leave all the doors open. These I close just because otherwise you can't see me. And once I have them all filled with screws, then I'll go back through. I'll grab a handful of handles and the gun, and I'll come down through and I'll put a bunch on at once. So, not to bore you, I'm going to throw these in. We'll fast forward some more, and then I'll come back and we'll talk about drawers once I get the doors done. So I spared you all the boredom of watching me put the hardware on these doors, but I spared you all the boredom of putting the hardware on all these doors, but we're now to a point where the hardware is on all the doors. And if I can make this camera cooperate. Okay, here's the ones you saw me start with. And we've got all of them done. And we're going to walk back because the next thing we're going to do is we'll go back to the master. Partly so you can see it and partly to get ready to do it. We've got the doors done in here, but we still have to do this drawer bank. And you know, very elaborate shower setup, nice big soaker tub, very cool bathroom, very cool house. I love this plan. We got our outdoor fireplace. Backyard's still pretty much just dirt, but we have an indoor fireplace with the entertainment center above it, which isn't there, obviously. And then the big gourmet kitchen. So I'm gonna put you back on the tripod, and there I am. I'm gonna put you back on the tripod. We'll take the tools back and we will get set up to do drawers back in the master bathroom. That way we can do the drawer bank. So stand by and we will return momentarily. When you're doing drawer banks, or drawers in general, sometimes the hardest part is getting the first one open. What we're going to do here, we're going to just take some painter's masking tape and we'll just put a piece towards the center of the drawer. Does not have to be perfectly centered. No sense wasting a bunch of tape. And of course I tore it off too tight. But we just want to hit somewhere towards the center of the drawer on each one. Get that extra out of the way there. And once we have that on, we grab a pencil. And the whole idea here is we want to find the center of this drawer. Now these are 14.5-inch wide drawers. So 7 1/4 is right there. We're going to mark each one of these at 7 1/4. And now, centering the jig will be very simple. Now we're going to remove, I don't remember where the camera is set up at. We're going to remove this edge piece because we're done with that for the moment. And we're going to keep the rest of it. Now we aren't going to change, oops, that one's loose. See, that's why I say we tighten those all the time. We aren't going to change the spread. We are, however, going to change the height. We've got 2 different size drawers here. So our first drawer measures 5 3/4. So half of that would be 2 7/8. And we will set it up 2 7/8. Very simple. There's a little notch, and I hope it's visible on here. A little notch right in the center of that guide. We're going to line that little notch up with the line I just drew. Hold on to that good and tight. And we'll make our little marker. Then our second size is 11 3/4, so 5 7/8. And again, set it on our little mark. Give it a good clamp with your fingers. And last but not least, now this one, I always double check, and I found that I've only ever had one time when the 3 drawers were all 3 different sizes, but I checked because it could happen. You know, on the styles that I work with all the time, I don't check. But even though this is a very common style, even though it's a very common style, it's not super popular, so it pays to double check. You can't double check, triple check, quadruple check enough times. The more times you check yourself, the less chance you are of making a mistake. Ramrodding through any job is, whoa, and our bit came loose. There you go. Ramrodding through any job is the best way to be able to get a second chance to do it over. So, just a simple matter now of find the right size screw. Now in this case, I know that the longest screw in our pack will work and the second screw in our pack will work. Although the second and third will all work. Now that's 2 of the second lengths. In this case, this company sends 4 different screws for different thickness of drawers. And we always have to sort out which one is the right one. So I will get these on and we will be back. Okay, and there's our 3 drawers. So that's it for that. We went ahead and got all the drawers on and all the doors on. Whoops. See what I'm doing. Okay, so we had all the doors and drawers. Now you notice this one cabinet that's open here, it didn't get any handles on it. And that's because that's going to be the subject of the next video, as the charger says it's done behind me. So anyway, that is our short and sweet version of hardware. And I'm going to call that a good day, a good place to stop. I'm Papa J. Thanks for coming to Papa J's shop. Even if we're not in the shop, we'll be back there soon. And I hope this gives you a little idea of how you put on hardware. And I'll put some links down in the description of where we got the jig, the glue gun, whatever I can think of. And I will see you on the next video, literally in about 5 minutes, my time. I'm going to get everything set up, and we're going to do a different little project in this house. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.